Hey guys, Remo here from Back to Warcraft. I am with a wonderfully talented Pete Stilwell from the Classics team, who's working on Warcraft 3 Reforged, of course, and he was nice enough to give an interview here. Thank you very much.
Happy to make time. Yeah, of course.
All right, so it's actually dinner time pretty soon, so let's delve right in. So, with you hiring a number of community map makers, it is evident that the world editor and the custom game scene has become much more important to you. What are you hoping to see happen in the custom game scene upon launch and moving forward?
Yeah, I think our perspective is like the real power of this editor is that it's very easy to learn, and then there's so much to do with it, right? It's very capable, and what we want to do is add even more to that depth, and unlock the community's ability to create new, exciting features. Like I don't know that there's a specific expectation. It's just more the hope that with more tools, more cool stuff can happen, and we're going to have these beautiful new models. Let's have some new triggers and Lua support and other things to help people make experiences that are at the same quality bar as how it will look and sound and play. So,
okay,
yeah.
Cool. So from what we've seen so far, human and orc seem to be the most developed of the four races. In relation to them, how far along are the other two?
They're essentially like going into the high poly stage. So we start with concepts, we do blockouts, so like kind of simple shapes, and then the sculpting artists essentially go through and make like cinematic quality models, right? Like just incredibly high poly. So that's the high poly stage, and then you reduce those polys to like a more sane number, but you retain those details and you bake that into the simpler geometry. So for Undead and Night Elf, we're kind of in that stage of doing like the really elaborate versions of everything.
Okay. So far, is there one standout example to you where you feel like, wow, the art team has really nailed that one?
Yeah, I love the grunt. I think the grunt is like gets it the way we want it, and he is kind of our gold standard right now. And we understand, some of the human things need to be tweaked, and that's what's fun about finally getting to announce and release this, is that we can also now have the community's feedback and your feedback, and everybody who knows and loves and breathes this game, and can like one thing we talk about with animations, like if a human isn't walking right, there's like the animal part of your brain goes, no, that's not a human.
Yeah.
I think it's similar where when you're looking at Warcraft art, there's an animal part of your brain that's going, no, that's not right. And that's why we want to have these dialogues, is so that as excited as we are to bring new depth and kind of marry what I think are the many styles of Warcraft, we still want the core Warcraft 3 community to love it just as much as we do, and make sure that we're hitting those marks.
Yeah, I think not only today, but also from the internet community, there has been quite a bit of criticism towards the UI. How satisfied are you with that state at the moment? So
I'm satisfied that we're having the conversation. Like we went into BlizzCon knowing that we weren't happy with the UI, but that it would be a catalyst to understanding what the community would want out of this potential, right? And then the saving grace through all of it is that there will be an option to use the original UI. We will do a reforged version of the original UI. So like if you're a purist and you want to stick with the way it was, you can. And then we'll have these new types of UI that are available. And to me, the biggest not improvement, but the biggest benefit of it is that we've decoupled it all, so that each of those pieces is a module now, which means if you're a map maker, you're going to be able to do new, unique things with the UI, and you can put that mini map anywhere and not have it at all. And like I think it really just extends the community's capability as much as anything. And I think through iteration and feedback, we'll land on a really solid version of this kind of reduced UI eventually, anyway.
Okay, so now going more towards our side of the game, the competitive side. Blizzard is known for their esports support for their games. Are there any plans already in the works for this happening for Reforged already? Or is it still too early of a stage?
Yeah, it's still a bit too early. Like, I would love to see a world where, similar to how we released the KSL shortly after, StarCraft Remastered was released, like something like that where, let's say the Gold tournament still keeps doing amazing, and with Reforged, that that stokes even more enthusiasm around it, then there's kind of a reason for us to get involved and support you guys and have even more exciting stuff going on as an esport. But no set plans at the moment.
We've heard that new voice lines will be getting recorded as well. Some people voiced their concerns about this. Can you put their minds at ease that their old game will still be their old beloved game?
Yeah, like that was one of the best lessons with StarCraft Remastered as well, of like leave the option, leave the availability to go back to the original, leave it in its purest form. Like what we're doing I think is awesome, will engage hopefully millions and bring new blood in, right? Bring in new people who want to see these origin stories, and maybe they've never played Warcraft, but they've played WoW, or they've read the comic books, or they've some other exposure to this franchise, and they'll want to come see these origin stories. And especially if they're a WoW player or something like that, if they've already heard these voices, or a Heroes player, and then we have completely different ones, like we can just kind of smooth that over and say like, this is who Arthas is, this is who Uther is, and I think that's great. Some of the actors who acted in the original aren't available anymore for one reason or another, so there's challenges there. I think one of the other things we're doing in tandem with this, like we're working with Christy Golden, who wrote Arthas, the book, to kind of add a little bit more flair and a little bit more life into the campaign from a dialogue perspective. Matt Morris will tell you that there were times that they would type in placeholder text as designers, and then eventually they got VO back and they're like, wait a second, I know this, and they'd look and they'd be like, this is my placeholder text. So there's moments like that even they just want to kind of retroactively fix, which I think we're really excited about. But there will still be, like you said, to allay fears, there will still be that purest original version.
All right, good. I'm sure many people will be glad to hear this. We heard that there might be a hero selection possible, meaning that when you play Paladin, you can, for example, pick Uther or Arthas, each coming with their own voice lines, etc. Also, female versions of previously male heroes, and vice versa. Is that something that is only an idea right now, or do you have committed to this and can confirm right now that this will be making it into the game?
Yeah, that's definitely happening. We've already got a lot of those models. We were, already writing the lines and doing the casting, so for sure.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Another thing that a lot of purists will be asking for, will there be LAN functionality?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, like another big part of this team is like, we hate deprecating features. We believe part of the success of these games were old school LAN parties. We're having, clans and chat channels and places to congregate together. Like, shared experience is one of the most powerful things in games. And like, as good as the gameplay is on this, if you didn't have people to talk to, it wouldn't have resonated as much. It wouldn't. You wouldn't probably still be playing it. Like the people we play with, our tribes, are what bind us, and it just happens that this is the focus of that passion and that love for something, right?
Yeah, cool. From what I understand, the development of Reforged started in earnest when StarCraft Remastered was finished and the team could move on to the next title. After Reforged is released, how much development priority can we still expect from the classic team side, especially concerning future balance patches?
Sure. We will still be doing that. Like the core team that came off of SCR are like graphics engineers and folks like that who kind of have a specific walk in life, and we moved them off of SCR as it was completed, but like we still have dedicated folks to StarCraft. We will still have dedicated folks for Warcraft. I'm looking forward, I hope, to being in a better place in balance by the time we launch Reforged, but assuming there still needs to be some tweaks and course corrections, Matt and the design team will still be doing that. And there will also be the things that people want iterated on that are introduced with Reforged, and then I'm looking forward to post that a couple months after, when we've healed all those things up, and have the game in a really great state of starting to get new requests in and seeing what those next hills to climb are. Like I think a lot of us here enjoy the journey, so getting more journeys out of this game, which I expect is going to be epic. So.
Okay. The Warcraft 3 community was much more open to changes to their game than the Brood War community was, yet you still decided to keep the engine entirely the same. Yeah. Why that choice?
I think no matter how much you're a fan of change, like you still need the core to be there. And the gameplay engine is so, it's so necessary to be the Warcraft 3 experience that if you were to take this game and try to rebuild it, say in Galaxy Editor with SC2's engine, like you would have to do so much work to get it even feeling slightly the same, and it never would be. That same part of like that animal brain I was talking about, like you guys would just be like, no, they don't quite surround right. They don't, they don't path right. They're too smart, and things like that would start to take away from what makes you the player important. And I think that's too much of a fundamental change.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. No doubt we will see plenty of returning players purchasing Reforged and replaying the campaign. But how many of them do you think will be staying? And what can we do to make as many stick with the game as possible?
Sure. I hope a lot stay. That's always the hope. I think again, the tools that we're offering to the custom community, and we'll be getting those tools out before Reforged. So hopefully that means like day one there will be new good maps, and old maps that could use a little bit of love would get that in the interim and be ready. That there will be a huge custom scene and a lot of these other experiences that go beyond like what we can do with the campaign or competitive play to make it a stickier experience. And I think it's a great challenge. I think for the community itself, for you guys out there that are playing every day and love this game and want to see more people on ladder so that the queue times are lower and things like that, we have to be good patrons of this game. We have to welcome people in and be tolerant and teach them. Like, you know how frustrating it can be to learn a game, especially if you tune into a stream and you see some guy doing amazing things and you think, oh, I could probably do that. And then, as with most RTSs, you can't. But it doesn't mean we can't be good ambassadors. That's really what I should have said than patrons. We need to be great ambassadors.
Okay. In other games like Dota 2, CSGO, and even on the Chinese Warcraft 3 client NetEase, there's a feature where you watch other people's games inside the client, like when they're playing ladder or whatever. Are there any plans to implement that as well for Reforged?
I'm sorry, ask the question again. I'm sorry. Still thinking about your other question. Sorry.
Like, is there going to be an in-game, in-client watch functionality like NetEase offers for you?
Sure. Yeah, we would like, the nice thing about Warcraft is that because we have our proxy servers where we have to kind of be hosting and monitoring the game, we will have the ability for people to hook in and watch without having a negative experience on the actual players. Because we could never do that with StarCraft as much as we wanted to, because it's a truly peer-to-peer game. And if suddenly you have thousands of people asking for your data, you're doing too much uploading and it would ruin the experience. Your ping would skyrocket. So with this, because we can do it from our own central server hubs.
And that will be available when it ships?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, cool. How much development can we expect on SD? So that's the standard definition before the launch. Is patching the old game still a priority?
Yes, we will continue to patch. We have balance changes on PTR right now. We have server improvements. Like similar to SCR, the desire is to get like our biggest, scariest pieces of tech debt done before the big moment, so that it doesn't detract from it or compound it if there are issues. Right? Like it's a lot easier to put out little cuts of things and roll with that and put out minor fixes instead of trying to fix 70 things at once at the end or something. So I expect to have another big patch probably in February or somewhere in the spring that has a huge amount of these improvements for the editor specifically, so that again we can start to get those tools out there and have people making new maps essentially.
What will the server structure look like? Meaning America, Europe, Korea, that kind of thing.
We're still working through that. It'll be based, more on our modern stack than on, the legacy BattleNet system. So expect closer parity to how modern BattleNet has its server layout.
All right. With other titles, you do things like development update posts and podcasts and such. Will you engage in more communication with the community for Reforged as well? Yes,
our community team is coming up with a strategy right now, but now that, the curtain is down and we're officially doing this, despite you guys knowing it anyway, we're happy to say that the community team will have a better communication strategy, and hopefully in the coming weeks that will pick up and be shared.
We can already buy the digital copy on playwarcraft3.com. Will there also be a box version of the game?
I'm not sure that there will be. We'll have probably a future announcement on that front. Yeah.
Okay. Beta always a big question.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to have a beta?
Yeah.
How long is it going to last?
I'm not sure how long it'll last. That's another one we're hoping to have start at some point early next year.
The beta?
Yeah.
Supposed to start early next year?
Yeah. So we don't have an exact date, but the sooner we can get it started, the better. With the idea that maybe say as Undead are complete and we want to get a good feedback pass on Undead, maybe we make some missions available and start to have some, 1v1s and things like that as those systems come online. Mm-hmm. But we'd like to, similar as that patch cadence I was mentioning, we'd like to get some things out there sooner than later so that there can be a really good feedback loop. So that if we need to make any course corrections, that can happen. I'd almost call it more of like a pre-alpha than a beta even for what we're probably anticipating in the spring. Yeah.
All right. So far we've seen nothing at all of the Night Elves. When will we catch the first glimpse of the Sentinels?
Hopefully in that similar time period. Like you guys have seen some of that today and given feedback, so we'll react to that and try to get it as ready as soon as possible. Yeah.
Okay. Once you have finished the game, how likely is it that you will be adding new content? Something people always ask about, as in new heroes, new units, items, or of course the infamous fifth race.
Yes. Well, Naga will be in there because we have to put all that stuff in there. It's already existing content, not necessarily as playable race. But no, we don't have any beyond Reforged plans at the moment. Like we're just focused on getting that right. Similar to the esports conversation, we'll see how that all pans out. I hope that there is a clamoring for more content and we can do something about it, but no current plans.
All right. Will we still be able to have multiple smurfs, or will we be limited to the single account?
That's actually a topic of hot debate. We should probably start a forum post around it, and I'm not joking. Like we've been talking a lot about it within the team, and there are strong opinions both ways. So.
In the air.
Yeah, legitimately, like that's one for the community to help weigh in on and give us some assistance. Yeah.
All right, so if you guys have any strong feelings, let us know.
I'm sure you do.
I think so too. Yeah. What will the ladder look like? Is it going to be similar to SD, StarCraft 2, a mix of both, or something entirely different?
We've got wireframes of that. We're working through that. I think the expectation is to have a more modern ladder approach and format, but like how we're going to rank and things like that, we haven't determined yet. So we did the S through F rank in StarCraft Remastered. Yeah. I don't know whether we go that route precisely, but doesn't necessarily mean that we use the medals the way SC2 did, but. Another good topic for the community. Like, yeah.
Are there any plans to implement any co-op play?
Not at this time. Yeah.
Okay. Let me turn the page here 1 second. We all know that RTS games can be extremely difficult for new players to get into and learn. Are you planning on including any systems, guides, or anything like that to make this task for a novice player less daunting?
Yeah, that's another thing we're kicking around right now, are systems for teaching players how to level up more quickly and have kind of set, here's a mini game essentially to help you get better at the macro game. So we don't have like an exact like here's a feature set, but we are kicking around ways of figuring that out. Yeah.
Okay, cool. For what we've been shown so far, what are you really proud of? And what still needs some polishing in your opinion?
I'm really proud of like the direction that it's headed in. I feel between the reaction and talking to folks like yourself and at BlizzCon and already reading what's out there, like I feel like we're headed in the right direction. I know there's a lot of things that need work. Like the terrain is a prime example of something that I still cringe because it's still on the original kind of tile set system. We've just up-resed it. And realized like the constraints of the original tile system will mean that it can never look at the quality we want for a modern game, right? So we're actually going to be kind of stripping that out and creating a new kind of tiling system to give you more variance and more depth and make it feel more realized the way the units and the buildings are. So that's like a prime example of like every time I see one of our videos, I'm like, oh, just don't look at the ground. Just look at the units. They're great. But we'll get there.
Yeah. Is group selection of more than 12 units even possible with the game still running on the old engine, or not?
Yeah, it's possible, and that was even a very hot topic today.
Yeah.
Which I was actually surprised how many folks were proponents for it. So I think it's definitely something we could entertain. And as we were talking about, there could be something as simple as like a traditional ladder where it has all the rule sets of like, hey, don't mess with it. It's still 12 unit selection and things like that. And then maybe here's a progressive ladder or something where the experimental ideas go and get vetted, and if the community gives it the green light, it gets moved in or something like that. Like, I think there's ways we can figure out whether it's a good idea or not. I would prefer not to go the route of the camera height being slightly taller on the PTR again, and like offer something and then take it away. That's really tough to do as a developer. I know it's tough as a community member if you loved the thing that then gets taken away. So we want to avoid things like that, but we're definitely open for ideas.
Okay. All right. That's it. That's the mic drop moment. Thank you very much, Pete, for the interview.
Appreciate you.
It's been great fun here at Blizzard, and we're almost done here. But there's going to be lots more Warcraft 3 and Reforged content on Back to Warcraft. We have YouTube, we have Twitter and Twitch and all that. You know that. I'll see you there again soon. And take care. Cheers.